the next layer of the genetic type, whatever, I don't know what to call it. It's basically being handled. I've written this a couple times, or drew it out. The first recordings, I don't know what happened to them. It's a digital architecture, more or less. Well, not digital, but it's a matrix, literally like a mathematical matrix architecture, kind of like, I don't know, what's that game? It's like vertical checkers or checkers, and the more we kind of resist knowledge and basically coming to the truth of what's going on and knowledge and all that, the lower we go in this archaic society architecture, where basically the real world, if you want to call it that, or where the solution is on the, it's in view, if you will, and say by lagging behind, we'll end up having to do the same process through a kind of archaic framework architecture, bare bones architecture, that will be here, if you will, or that will be the only thing optional or possible if, more or less, you could see, say everybody moves on and the problem's been solved. Then the consciousness of those who aren't aware of that has to move through this kind of artificial simulation of what would have happened otherwise to get to where they are, or their spirit, their power, their memories, well, the goods, if you will, the substance of them will be left behind. And that doesn't really make sense. You can imagine, like it'd be like a massive memory wipe. And so it's as if one way to look at it is, we have, whoa, oh no, if we have this infrastructure, excuse me, the situation in time, and then it's kind of like layering more so, or the base level problem. I don't have a flat surface. If that's getting off the ground, if you will, of this genetic issue of not having our genetics in our mind mismatched to the point where the body we're in is kind of, they want to separate, if you will. Then the next level of that is pretty much, maybe you could say some people are in that level, and there's still the same problem, if you will. It's just refined. It's kind of a new problem, or a new way of seeing it or resolving it, or it's not. You could also say it's not fully done on one level, but multiple levels. And if you could conceive that, and that possibility, say through tech, we kind of could see our own DNA and narrow things down, and through self-awareness and self-mind control, if you will, be broke free of that, and so on. You can project where these other possible layers would be. And so our society, more or less, dealing with that. Ultimately, imagine if people eventually got over that. The framework for that is going to go one of two ways. You can also look at it another way. If there are those who require the artificial matrix system to route their consciousness through, you could extrapolate that they would begin doing that now. Ultimately, you could eventually come to realize that whatever system we're outlining is the system that we're in. As long as we can see it, that means we're probably underneath that system, and only when we go through it or loop around it to the fact that we've put ourselves on top of it, are we going to be past it. And so then it can go two ways, where those that need it or don't. But the point is, you can conceive, if we don't want to believe that because there are assholes in power and doing this, it's not that far of a stretch to say that we're already in that type of system, in the sense that it basically became the world's problem because it was anyone's problem. And really, you could see if DNA is connected in that sense. As part of it, however, as well, the new system in sense of the new problem. Okay, say everyone's in this holographic architecture. All right, well, what happens? They're fine. They can do whatever they want. They can, well, say insectoid consciousness surrounds the planet, and to get out of it, you have to get through very, very dense level frequencies that are basically trillions upon trillions of insects. I don't know about trillions of trillions. Anyway, actually, I mean, it'd have to be. There's billions and friggin' well, not billions, but but you can see billions in a field, so it's like there's be trillions upon trillions all over. But what if each one of those added to a layer of consciousness, if you will, that each species. Okay, either way. So imagine then we saw we were being stuck in this field and couldn't get out, and then they were using some type of weird causality of trying to insert themselves through some type basically like reverse engineering our consciousness and trying to. It's really weird. Okay, so say our civilization developed tech to alter time, to more or less do the Superman thing and rotate the planet back, and this is coming to light now as maybe something far more crazier than that, or even something natural that is like our perception playing with it, because your brain kind of does stuff like that anyway. And we're kind of understanding though that these things that we see down here, just like the people in earlier times with myth and legends, that it's stuff that's going on in a hyperspatial way, in a hyperspatial plane, that you would need supercomputer systems calculating everything's brain and all these huge networks of information in order to understand who's doing what, how, and where it's going. And so the idea is if we roll back, if we have the ability to roll back genetics, aging, time, all types of stuff, disease basically, entropy, okay, well then we are in the system now where we're immortal, blah, 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 and this, that. The new issue is that some people drove their energy so far down that they're back on the animal layer in the effing digital or holographic architecture system. Okay, and so then now, since we're in that collective, that could then threaten to recycle the whole thing into that. And so then we've had this recycle point where we keep going up and down, and they use time tech to bounce us out. Each layer brings itself anew, but the point is, there is getting out. It's just that some people have been resetting, because basically it might have been that they were brought up out of the system before their time was ready, or they could have easily been, it could be described that they stayed back to help, and all types of stuff is the explanation. But the point is, if we're wherever we're at, it keeps going. I don't mean that it keeps going in time. I'm saying right now, whatever battle you're looking at is occurring on multiple levels. And the only way it keeps going, in the sense that that ends and more comes out, is if we if we complete all the levels while we're here, while we're literally doing it here, and nothing can be done outside of that, in the sense that whatever we need and whatever we're going to be capable of is going to be handled by something else, or at least that we won't be capable of doing that. And that could be in play with on par with the next system, not on par, but it could be kind of hinting at the next system to the degree where if it's going to be exponentially decreasing from what's been containing us, that means power levels are going to exponentially increase to the degree where it's going to have to be controlled, because every change we make is going to influence that same blue biological neurological blueprint, and that same capacity to go into decoherence or entropy could be possible all the way up until the completion point, which could be either way, kind of depending on how you look at it. Some are going down, some are going up. However, everything has to go where it's supposed to be. But in that sense, it's weird, because it's not to say that if something doesn't reach the completion point or something like that, that it doesn't matter because there's no loss. That would mean that it would have been recycled and there's another chance, if you will. the whole point is that system in itself is the lowest gear of like a space nursery that gone to hell. And the idea is for those who are trying to achieve whatever is beyond that, they can't until the whole system is brought to completion, meaning everybody has to complete it more or less at once altogether, or that nobody can leave if they don't. That's part of what's been going on, and people have been abusing tech where you can kind of make that system keep going, doing it in a variety of ways. However, I can't even go on because you can imagine, based on what's been said, the tech being used, what can have been abused, and how like the shit that went down. All right, thank you, or whatever.